Yo, what it do, YouTube? It's your guy, Ibo, and today we're going to be covering one of the more requested videos as of recently. We're going to be talking about Victor's two stances. Those two stances are Perfumer and the EI stance, or Lie stance, whatever you want to call it. I'm so over calling it EI. It just sounds so ugly. It's going to be called Lie stance for this video. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to start off with just some basic knowledge with the stances, the moves that go into the stances, the moves within the stances, and how to kind of like set yourself up for success when you're playing this character and trying to be very mix-up oriented, learning about, you know, frame traps, fake traps, mind games, how to initiate people who aren't respecting, people who are respecting, and just a few other concepts that I want to bring to the table, just to give, you know, people some general insight. So without further ado, let's get into it. Also, if you haven't already, I say this in every video, but please make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and comment on the video letting me know how you felt, what you think I should tackle next, and so on and so forth. Alright, let's tackle some of the options that go into stance. I can give you guys a little bit of information. In my opinion, I feel as if the EI stance and all of its transitions to go into the stance are much weaker than the Perfumer transitions and just the Perfumer stance in general, right? We'll get into that a little bit more in a second, but before that, let's talk about the moves. So we got, what do we have? We have 222, which is a -3 on block and +4 on hit, leaves you in stance, both options. We have down forward forward 2, same thing, -3 on block and +4 in stance. We've got the manual stance, which is just 3+4. We have up forward 1-1 cancel and EI 1-1 cancel. Then we have Perfumer 2-2, which on block, on hit it's +5, and on block we have, was it -4? Yeah, so, and then last but not least we have Core Circle 402, which is the same thing as 2-2-2 and down forward 4-2. It's going to be -3 on block and +4 on hit, no matter what range you hit it at. Now, one of the main reasons why I personally believe that the EI stance is much weaker than the Perfumer stance is because it feels very committal, and you can't block when you're in this stance, right? Like, you can do cool like shimmy or like hold back, hold forward, duck or whatever, but you can't block when you're in your stance. So you have to press 3+4 to get out, or you have to press you have to hold down back to get out of the stance for a brief moment. This can be a bit problematic when it comes to creating safety for yourself, right? And when you're locked into a stance right here, there are defensive options that you have, which we will tackle in a little bit. But just to give you an idea, one of the main quote-unquote defensive options that he has is the Power Crush, right? That's just a good defensive option in general for most characters, right? The Power Crush is 17 frames, but the problem with the Power Crush is that it's -14, right? So anybody that's trying to retaliate with like strings or slow options or like anything that's like, I want to say like 15 or like 16 or anything like that, you will most likely like the Power Crush will work, but if it gets blocked, it's -14, and that for almost every character is a heat engager, and for some characters is a launch, so it's not that good. Okay, so in my personal opinion, you should stray from doing the Power Crush if you can. If you have a hard read, then by all means go for it. But if not, dude, like -14 is big punish, big damage, and sometimes launch. So that is, yeah, subpar defensive option. And when it comes to entering the stance, I'm going to be honest with you. Down forward 4-2 and 2-2-2 are both kind of average. They're duckable highs, and on block they leave you at disadvantage, and in a stance where you can't block, it's not that good. It makes it kind of like linear and not so, I don't know, like you just can't really do much, right? You can do stuff, like there are some options that you can do to try to finagle, but more than anything, bro, like you're pretty much cooked, like if they do a safe check. So anywho, the better options to do in order for you to kind of like start the mind game process is upward 1-1 and EI 1-1 cancel, right? And we're gonna go ahead and get more into detail on those right now. Now, when it comes to up forward 1-1 and EI 1-1, 1-2, and 1-1+2, these are all extremely confirmable. Okay, the upward 1-1 has the lowest amount of confirm window, but as you can see, this is the fastest you can do it. Right, this is something close to max delay. Right, so you have a lot of time. You could tell 2-hit combo, have him set to standing and block all, and the delay difference is very considerable. If you look at that, you have tons of time for that one. You have tons of time for that one. So those by themselves can be enough to make someone quiver in fear, right? Those options, and if you delay them for one, that's one thing. You can catch people on delay. If you hit confirm them, that's an entirely different line of work that I feel like is also just as powerful. So just know you have those options at your disposal. So just to go ahead and highlight a few things, we have Dragunov here set to do a jab after being hit by anything. And the two differences between up forward 1-1 cancel and EI 1-1 cancel, the main difference is that up forward 1-1 cancel is +3, and EI 1-1 cancel is at the fastest it's +2. Okay, that small minute difference, you have to remember these things, otherwise you can in fact get blown up. And it can be a little scary if you're playing against a character like Dragunov and you're not careful, because Dragunov has a 10 frame counter hit confirmable heat engager. Okay, and so what that means is that if you're not safe enough, this can happen to you, right? That is what we don't want to happen. So keep in mind that this EI 1-1 cancel is only +2 on hit in comparison to upward 1-1 cancel, which is +3, and will give you the frame advantage to trade with the jab. But not only just that, if we notice, when it trades with Dragunov, you notice that Victor is at +10 and Dragunov is at -10. This is very important because in the event that he tries, or in this particular scenario, Dragunov tries to do anything, and I mean move, press a button, flinch, almost every scenario there's like a counterplay to it. So you saw how he continued. I have the bot set to continue to mash after that. Look, he does 1-1, which is, again, Dragunov's quickest option in this scenario. Most people's quickest option, which is jab, 10 frames. You can't press. You can't do anything, right? So if it trades, they cannot do anything. You get a combo if you do 1+2. You get a heat engager if you do back 1+2. The options are truly like all in your favor, right? So keep that in mind. The difference between up forward 1-1 cancel and EI 1-1 cancel is very significant, and you need to make sure that you're not getting sloppy with your options if you want to make sure that you can effectively lock your opponent down. Now, obviously, if Sergey decides to do anything else besides that, he's gonna get beaten out and counter hit, whatever the case would be. And that goes for either scenario. So if it's not a jab, and if it's not something that can inherently avoid the up forward one, then you will have free reign to do whatever it is that you want, whatever option that you want, and Dragunov cannot, or whatever character cannot interrupt. So for example, up forward 1-1 into this, it's gonna beat out that DF1. The same thing goes for EI 1-1. It's gonna beat out that DF1. Okay. Very, very important. And just to quickly go over some of the other options, I think we already covered these, but real quick, EI 1-2 and EI 1-2-2. EI 1-2 is hit confirm, and the third hit is guaranteed. The last 2 hits will give you a wall splat and give you a combo. We have EI 4 and EI 4 1+2. This is a jailing string, and it has a very similar animation to this move. So a lot of the times people think that it is like plus or something. It's not, it's -5, but you could still use that to fish certain moves like back 1+2 afterwards, because you're not at like an overwhelming amount of disadvantage. But anyways, yeah, +3, and it gives you the same frame advantage as if you were to have blocked something like that, like a EI 1+2 or EI 1+2 on block. So pretty good. You have also the EI down 1+2 is a launch punishable, essentially 360-degree homing low sweep. It's actually really good. We'll actually get into some specific tech at the wall with this move that I think is going to help people make themselves a little bit more threatening. And then I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, EI 2 safe mid. It appears to be not homing, but has some really good tracking to both sides. And then there is, last but not least, if I haven't forgotten anything, yeah, we did the power card. Okay, so then there's this move, right? EI down 2. Okay, this move is pretty interesting, and we'll tackle this a little bit more in depth in a little bit as well. But essentially, that's the whole lineup of all the EI options, and they all are unique and special in their own way, but there's only a few of them that I think are actually like super overwhelming. This move in Heat being one of them, super crazy, does a crap ton of chip, and can really make your opponent just hold block, like make them not want to go anywhere or do anything. So very important part of his game plan. So when Victor is in Heat, he gains access to a brand new pressure option. That option is down back 1+2. It is +6, 28 frames, so pretty slow. Gives you some good frames though. It leaves you in stance, it knocks down, it wall splats, and on top of that, it does a pretty decent amount of chip, as you can see in the top right there. And when it comes to Victor's mix-up and pressure game, a lot of the stuff isn't real. Like up forward 1-1 and 2-2-2, like these things can be interrupted in some way, shape, or form, or checked. But when we're talking about, down back 1+2 being +6, it shifts the dynamic a little bit. So not only does this make the EI options obviously uninterruptible, it makes it almost impossible for you to step these moves to the weak side, right? And with that being said, it also makes a move like EI 2, which is 16 frames, also uninterruptible essentially, and it boosts the tracking on it significantly because you're at such a large amount of frame advantage, right? And so because of this, I think that this move in itself, very good option that you need to be using in order for you to make in order for you to make a real lockdown situation in this stance. There's not many of those situations that you have access to, so you need to make sure you do this. Now, there are weaknesses to this move, even off of a heat engager. I'm going to show you right now. Let me do this real quick. We have so we have him set to do a heat engager, and then see, you can easily step it to the left side, and if that is what happens, then you can get a launch in the back. It's a little tight, but it is very doable. You can also jab interrupt it because the frame advantage off of a heat engager is only +17, and the move is 28 frames. So if you do the math, that makes that move come out at 11, which means that it is interruptible by anything 10 or quicker. So, quick recap. This move, very good, need to use it. It is incredibly strong. It is a little bit linear to the left, but it allows Victor to create real pressure out of his EI stance instead of just fakeness that he normally has to do. Okay, one more thing I wanted to tackle. Since we already discussed the EI down 2, I wanted to highlight how important it is to also use this move when you're in Heat, especially at the wall, right? So EI down 2 in Heat becomes an incredibly damaging option, 45 damage. The hitbox is slightly extended a little bit, and it's a little bit more active. On block, which is what we all came here for, it is +8 instead of +1, and it still has the same distance on the pushback. At this range, pretty much any of Victor's options are going to hit, right? But +8 is huge. You need to be able to have access to that, use that effectively, and you know, it goes. The same thing goes for this move as it does when it comes to down back 1+2. It makes the mix-up and pressure game a little bit more real for Victor. So very important options that need to be used. Okay, so we're here at the wall with Sergey, and I wanted to go ahead and show you the different types of scenarios that you have access to when you get down or stance down 1+2 on hit at the wall. Okay, notice the positioning that Dragunov is left in. His feet are towards you, and he's on his stomach. Have him set here to stand up, and we'll go through some of the options, that way you guys can get a better idea. But as long as you keep your options 16 frames or quicker, you will be able to catch Dragunov if he decides to get up either way. So if you notice, he got up normal right there, and or he stood up rather, and the forward 4-1 hit gave you a wall splat combo, whatever, do whatever you want to do, right? Okay, so that was 14 frames. That was 13 frames. This is 17 frames, right? But once you get to the 17 frame mark, it starts to get, or Dragunov can stand up and block normally and not get hit by the option. To give you another idea, the down forward 2 would work. Obviously, you don't want to go for down forward 2 in a situation like that because you don't get much. So keeping it as safe as possible is important. The good thing about forward 4-1 as an option is that it is slightly hit confirmable. So you can, you know, visually see that the first hit connects and then confirm the second hit. And at that point, you're good to go. Like, that's that one Okizeme situation that you needed to win the game, because now not only have you got a hard knockdown into an Oki situation that's giving you a wall splat, but now they're in another Oki situation and you have heat. It's just a disgusting place to be, right? To go over the wake up backwards, same thing. Except this time you noticed they didn't hit, right? So another good option to throw out to keep it relatively close to the same speed is down forward 3+4. This will catch wake up backwards, and it will also catch stand up normally. And if it catches it on a stand up normally, you'll know, because that's the animation. You get a combo, do whatever you want. Your options are a little limited because his back is towards you. But yeah, those are the two options that I think are very important to use when it comes to stand up, wake up, or wake up backwards. And the other stuff is like kind of self-explanatory, right? Everything else besides this, besides these two up here, can all be dealt with the same way essentially. So if he decides to side roll left, for example, down 1+2 will hit. If he decides to side roll right, down 1+2 will hit. If they do any wake up option, which would be absolutely just such a poor decision to make, it will splat them on the wall for a combo, and that works for any type of recovery, get up kick, whatever the case may be. That's specifically because of the position that Dragunov is in. Okay, I would also even say that you could probably get okay, maybe not that much, but you get the point. The point is that in order for you to deal with stand up, wake up backwards, you have forward 4-1 or down forward 3+4. In order to deal with any of the other options, front roll, side roll left, side roll right, wake up kick, anything like this, you could do down 1+2, and it will effectively deal with just about everything. So I hope that paints a picture with how to use this low at the wall. Alright, so we switched characters really quick so that I can cover this next topic. Essentially, earlier I had mentioned that Victor does have some defensive options out of the IAI stance. Not the best defensive options, but they kind of work, sort of. If, let's say, for example, and this is very, very, very much so character specific, so I highly encourage you to go out and do your own research and lab how the IAI stance defensive options work against certain characters. But say, for example, you have somebody that's just jabbing you. We took Dragon off, and we're just going to do 2-1, which is like a quick punish or a quick check to deal with people who might be overextending, right? If we have Victor set to do this, which is like that's -3, right? -3 leaves him in the IAI stance, and let's say, for example, I attempt to retaliate with 2-1 with Dragon off. So that right there is IAI duck, okay? And IAI duck works very good against you know, highs, and I've seen it actually crush some mids depending on what character we're talking about. But that's one way for you to deal with certain jab specific strings or high specific attacks from certain characters, right? And another example, okay, you can use that move as well, IAI 2, and it works the same way, right? Now you can also do this, right? But this needs to be on hit, right? The up forward 1-1 needs to be on hit. So what's happening here is I have Victor set to do up forward 1-1, and then he's holding back, right? So IAI back has the similar properties to the IAI duck, except it's not that evasive, not as evasive, I should say. But it does create some space and allow for some very interesting and unique scenarios, right? So same thing, Dragon off. Luckily for him, he has 1-2-1, which is the option that would obviously beat this. But just to paint and like give you an idea, right? Like this is something that you could use if you feel like your opponent is jab checking you a lot and you want to punish them for that. Alright, and the last thing that I wanted to talk about before we move on to the next part of the video isn't something that has to do with IAI stance specifically, but more so about the move up forward 1-1. Now, previously I mentioned that up forward 1-1 is it has some hit confirm properties. Okay, it's 13 frame punish. It leaves you at +15, puts your opponent into crouch, and just a very overall good move to want to use in the neutral, right? When you're put into crouch, okay, your options are limited, obviously. So I'm mashing 4, it's only while standing 4. Mashing 1, only while standing 1. I don't have access to my standing options when this move is on hit. And so the same rule applies for the movement aspect, right? Like I can move to the left, but I can't move to the right because I'm coming out of crouch. So I'm trying to move to the right there, and I can't. I would have to backdash and then do it, or just not do it at all, right? Okay, so maximizing in this situation is something that I don't see a lot of players doing, and I want to break it down as easily as possible, right? This scenario right here, this little 2-piece, up forward 1-1 into forward 1+2, is a great way to stop everything. Pressing buttons, moving to either direction, okay? Very, very good. Okay? It limits the options of your opponent even further, right? So they have to either do one thing, block, or single backdash into whiff punish, okay? That can be problematic if you're playing against someone that knows how to deal with that. Now, with that being said, there is a few ways around that. The first of which being this. This pretty much locks down everything, but what happens is that now they have an opportunity to duck, because if I'm spamming back right here to backdash, I can either get clipped like you've seen right there, or I'll block it like that, right? And both situations are pretty good for the Victor who's on the offensive side of things, right? Because you're either going to get hit or and heat engaged, or I'm safe and it's back to neutral. Because look at the spacing that it leaves us at, right? We're like literally at round start. So that's one way. The second way is to use it for a perfumer mix, okay? So if you know that someone is backdashing in anticipation of the forward 1+2 after this, you can use it into Perfumer mix, and then you get your +4, you get your low, that's also +4. You can do the faster option, which will, all of these options will go into detail in a second, but just to paint that scenario, that is very, very important to know, and I don't see a lot of people optimizing, maximizing on that situation, so start doing that. Very good. Okay, moving on to the better stance, which is Perfumer. This stance can be accessed by using the move forward 3 if you want to go into it manually. I think that this option in particular is very underutilized and very underrated. It's super quick and allows you to do an instant mix if you wanted to. Okay, you have 2-1, which is the 12 frame punish. 2-1 is +7 on hit if you go into stance, only +5 if you don't. And on block, -6 if you don't go into stance, and -4 if you don't. So objectively better to go into stance if this move is blocked, but because this move is actually a duckable high on the second hit, I wouldn't recommend using this move to start offense. I've been doing it, recently I've been getting blown up for it because I've been testing it, but there's a lot of ways to get around it. Both hits are high, second hit is duckable, and it's minus on hit. And because you can't block out of stance, it makes it pretty bad. So anyways, moving on, we have down back 1-1 or down back 1-1 forward. Okay, if you do down back 1-1 forward, it's a little bit more plus frames. It's +4 in comparison to +2. Okay, and on block, this move is -7 and -5 if you go into stance. So again, another situation where you probably don't want to be committing to the stance unless you know for a fact that this move is going to hit. There's no real way for you to know if this move is going to hit, because unless you're punishing with it as a 14, then you would never know, right? Like you can't confirm this into the stance. What's another move? Oh, Wall standing 1+2, one of my favorites, right? This is a 13 frame punish, and it's just a really quick mid poke, right? That comes out of wall standing. If you go into stance, or if you don't go into stance, it's the same frame advantage, it's +8. And if you don't decide, if it's on block and you decide to go into stance or you're not, it's still going to be -8. So again, we're noticing a pattern here. It's not good to go into stance if the moves are on block. Okay, it's really bad. It's very risky, and I wouldn't recommend it. Now, one of the options that I favor more than the others is back 1, right? Now, back 1 is a 14 frame mid poke. It's a little bit on the linear side, but it does have some tracking to the right. Okay, it's +5 on hit if you go into stance. -3 if you don't, right? And on block, this move is -5 and -13 if you don't. So the reason why this move seems so much worse than the other ones, but I like it more, is because it has a follow-up. Back 1-2, right? Which is super delayable. It's safe, but it's a duckable high as well. But the good thing about this move is that you can use it to counter hit confirm. Look at all the time that you have to counter hit confirm this. You can do it really fast like this. Okay, position change, or you can take your time, and that's substantially a lot of time, I should say, to confirm it than most other hit confirmable strings. So super good in terms of the micro mind game, I guess if you want to call it. But this is one of my favorite moves to be using to go into stance, as well as the Raw Perfumer, which it's so quick. You know, you don't have time to respond to this, right? You don't have time to respond to this. And if you do respond and you're not 100% on, like, as sharp as you could possibly be, then most of the time you'll get hit by this move, which is Perfumer 2-2. Okay, and we're gonna go into that in a second, but one thing that I wanted to mention is that the reason why Perfumer, in my opinion, is just better than the EI stance is because you have the options to transition, right? When you have the option to transition, but you don't, then that means that there's an entirely new layer of mind games and meta game that you can explore within that match against your opponent. So, whereas 2-2-2, you must commit because you're in stance, right? 2-1, you don't have to. You could just do 2-1 by itself, take the +5, or you can do 2-1 forward, take the +7. Okay, same thing goes for this move specifically. Back 1, you don't have to commit to back 1-2. You don't have to commit to back 1 forward. You could just do back 1. It is safe on hits, but it's minus, and it's minus 13 on block, but there's too many threats looming for a skilled opponent to just willy-nilly be pressing on this move on block. So yeah. Okay, so when we're talking about Perfumer Stance, and another reason why I think that it's like objectively better than the other side, the IAI Stance, is that it provides true lockdown scenarios on hit, and it makes the layers of pressure and lockdown much more deep. Okay, and so in almost all scenarios, I can't say in all scenarios, but in almost all scenarios, because nothing in this game is 100%, as we all know. Anytime you get a move that can transition into Perfumer on hit, this option that I'm about to show you serves to be the most consistent at stopping your opponent from pressing, and also the most consistent at stopping your opponent from stepping. Okay. Alright, so we have Victor here to set to sidewalk left after he eats the first action I'm going to throw out, just so I can have a clear demonstration, right? So starting from the top, we have Perfumer 2-1. You hold forward, it leaves you in stance, +7, solid punish. Okay, when you combine that with Perfumer 2 by itself, which as you can see here is a 12 frame mid, leaves me at +1 on hit, -8 on block. It becomes the all-in-one solution for people who are deciding to press, but also people who are deciding to walk to either direction, as you can see here. But the layers don't stop there, obviously. 2-1 forward into Perfumer 2-2 leaves me in the IAI Stance at +5. I think it's -4 on block, so you're in a very similar situation if you were to have done like 2-2 on, or 2-2-2 on block, or down forward, forward-2 on block. Okay. What this means is that now that you're at this +5 and you're in stance, the layers of the mix-up and pressure game start to get very interesting, right? And you can do things like 2-1 forward, Perfumer 2-2 into IAI 2, and although it's +5 into a 16 frame move, which technically, you know, the jabs can interrupt it by a frame, it isn't bad to do to check a lot of other things, right? Almost every other thing, any type of other press, any ducking, any moving. This move has incredible tracking, this IAI 2 to both sides, and so it makes it a very, very strong, consistent check for the opponent, again, if they're pressing or doing anything that involves anything, right? And as if matters weren't already horrible as they currently are, Perfumer 2-2 actually has a follow-up with 2 different extensions, right? The first one being Perfumer 2-2-1, and as you can see here, it is a -1 on block. It has some pushback between me and the other Victor, so that's super good, but it's a high, which means you can duck it, launch it. On hit, if the last hit connects, it is +12, so good frame advantage. And last but not least, the best property of the move is last hit, if they press, is a counter hit launcher. So you can mix this up with single Perfumer 2-2 if they're pressing, and you can't find ways to stop them when you're in the IAI Stance. And you can also mix it up with 2-2 1+2 if they start ducking. So 2-2 1+2 gives you guaranteed ground pound. As you can see here, if I attack or get up, I can't do anything. It's just, I can't do anything. Right? So, there you have it. All 3 layers of this incredible move. The best move in Perfumer. 12 frame mid is a luxury, and any character that has one is, in my opinion, very privileged. So, moving on. Okay, moving on to some of the other Perfumer options real quick. We have Perfumer 1, 19 frame, high crushing, low poke that is +4 on hit. It is -13 on block, which is not the best, not the worst. And then on counter hit, it gives you a nice little crumple sum animation that leaves you +13, and it gives you an opportunity to do just about everything. It does have some pretty decent tracking, if I'm not mistaken, to both sides, so long as the person you're playing isn't playing a character with an enhanced sidestep, like Elisa or Lily or anything of that nature. So not a bad option. We have Perfumer 4. It's a homing move. It's a high. It's plus 13, and on counter hit, it gives you anything that's 14 frames or quicker. There's not much to be said about it. It's not that good of a move. It's almost identical to back 4 in all the properties. So yeah, it's okay, I guess. Perfumer 3, one of my favorites, a heat engager. Okay, heat engage mid knee, 15 frames. I think that also has a little bit of low crush. I think that it does not have as good as tracking as Perfumer 1, if I'm not mistaken. Like even on that plus 7, it's not that strong. It'll track to the left. I think as long as you can keep your frames at plus 8 or more, like right here. Oh, see, look at that. You can't even step it. So even at plus 8, this move is very linear to the right side, which is generally Victor's weaker side. So I guess it makes sense. It is a quick move. It is a heat engager. It is a mid-knee. So use those attributes to your advantage. We also have Perfumer 1+2, which is a great pressure option that you can use in tons of different situations and combos very well with a few other options that we will talk about in a little bit. But just so I can make sure, because that would be embarrassing if I miss any of the humor options. Boom, boom, boom. 2, we did this, yep. All of them except another honorable mention, right? So we have Perfumer down forward, which is like a crouch dash, if you will. And it's really good at avoiding highs. So let's say, for example, you do something. Oh, this is actually not the right way to do it. Let's just have him do this. And just to cover all our bases, we're gonna do 1-2-1-2-2 or 1-2-1. Excuse me. I actually don't even know my own character. So we have him set to do 1-2-1 to try to interrupt. So if this is on block, right? So you can actually do any wall standing option and it'll most likely work at, what is this, -5? What about if we do this? Okay, so yeah. So this isn't gonna work because you're 2 minus, you're -8. So you're still gonna get hit by those jabs. But any other option, I think this will also work. I don't think there's a way for me to do that. Yeah, so down back 1-1. Back 1 forward. Also works. And 2-1, if Victor would have actually blocked it, it would also work because it's 2-1 on block, I think, is -4. Yeah, so same thing. Use back 1, 2-1, and down back 1-1 if you want to go into crouch dash. If you think they're going to try to retaliate with highs, you can just go, you know, go ham, go crazy. Combo. On the topic of Raw Perfumer, I think that it's very important for you to combine Raw Perfumer with your most used neutral tools and your most used pressure options in order for you to maintain and elevate to this new level of freshness in your game plan, right? And so, you know, in a game like this where aggro is everything, right? You want to be as unpredictable and as unique in your approach. So we all know what the most overused pressure option in the world for all Victor players is, and it's wall running 2. Okay, I have an entire video about wall running 2, which I posted a few months ago. If you guys want to go ahead and check that out, I'll leave a link for that somewhere in the video. But wall running 2, what they'll try to do is afterwards is that they'll try to sidestep to get out of, you know, stubby or linear pressure. They'll side walk to try to avoid big stuff that you're not supposed to be doing, and then launch you for it. But funny enough, there is a way to deal with that while having this freshness to your approach, right? So you can actually do it looks so silly. You can actually do Raw Perfumer 1+2, and it will track people who are doing deep sidewalks or deep side steps. Okay. Obviously, most people are going to stop and block, which is why it's important for us to also test the sidestep version. Sidestep block, you're going to have to deal with that to either side. Now, there are ways for people to also obviously interrupt you. Okay, they can sidestep interrupt you, and so I'm not saying it. I'm not giving you this so that you can be like, oh, this is gonna, you know, beat every situation out and be something that I'm gonna want to use all the time. Just a little gem of information for you to take with you and incorporate into your game plan, in some way, shape, or form. Right? Keep it fresh. That's the main important part. Alright, so now I want to go ahead and discuss a rule that I created for myself that's been very helpful for me when it comes to the small micro interactions and micro mix-ups, I like to call them. The rule is called +4 or more, and it's exactly what it sounds like. If you're +4 or more in frame advantage, then you can, relatively speaking, go for an EI mix using up forward 1-1 or EI 1-1. Now, disclaimer, I want to go ahead and reiterate if I haven't. I'm pretty sure I said this already in the video, but I'm going to say it again. A lot of the stuff that Victor has is not real, okay? Including some aspects of this concept that I'm going to give to you guys, okay? This is straight out of the vault, out of my own brain, okay? When it comes to Victor being +4, the better options, even though we have something like, let's say for example, this, okay? This move. This is +4. This is also +4. Oops. This is also +4. This is also +4. So down back 4, Perfumer 1, and Perfumer 1+2 on block are all +4 options. Now, the difference between all of these options is that the two lows force crouch, and the Perfumer 1+2 does not force crouch. They're all +4. They do not force, or Perfumer 1+2 does not force crouch, but the other two lows do force crouch, which means that the opponent's options are limited. Okay, so we're talking about up forward 1. Up forward 1 is pretty weak to sidestep left. It in some cases will track to sidestep right. It will always track sidestep right, but it will sometimes lose to sidewalk right, which is why it's important to understand how to limit your opponent's options. So let's talk about this. So we have him standing block. Up forward 1, it will lose to sidestep left. Okay. It will hit sidestep right, but it will lose to what? Sidewalk right. Okay. Same thing goes for sidewalk left. Okay. With that being said, how can we limit our opponent's options? By doing down back 4 or Perfumer 1 into up forward 1. Okay. So because he's already to the left, or because he's on the 2-piece side, he can't sidestep to the left out of crouch. Okay, which means this is what's going to happen. He can't do it. So if he attempts to sidestep to the left, he will get hit by that. The same thing goes for this. Which means that if you are on player 1 side and you use a move like Perfumer 1 or down back 4, they have one valid option to deal with this, and it's hard sidewalk right. Okay, otherwise they're going to get hit. So now, without making it so committal, right? You can go down back 4 into Perfumer mix for free. Yes, obviously they can sidewalk afterwards, but you know, if you're fast enough on your option, what's gonna happen? Okay, you get something. And so it's important to know why down back 4 and Perfumer 1 are better options to use when it comes to the micro mix-up scenarios in comparison to another move such as forward 1+2, right? Or even running 2, right? So that +5 threshold, you see this? Once you get out of that +4, what starts to happen? Sidewalk left is no longer a valid option. You can't move that way. You can sidewalk right, I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Yeah, you can still sidewalk right. But now you can't sidewalk left or sidestep left like you originally were at that +4 mark. So the rule really should be called +5 or more, but there's so many good +4 options that he has that I just named it that. But take that +4 or more, make it +5 or more, and then start to see what your opponent can do and what your opponent cannot do. That is real lockdown. You know what I'm saying? +5 or more. +4 is when it starts to get a little spicy, you know. But yeah. That's going to sum it up for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, hit that like button on the video, comment, let me know how you felt. And don't forget to subscribe because all those things help me tremendously. I got a couple more videos I'm going to drop in the near future. Got some special things planned. But until then, peace out. See y'all in the next one.